I still hear her best friend's laugh sometimes. The way it echoed off the metal shelves, loud and teasing, right before everything got quiet. "One kiss won't kill her," she'd said, grinning at me. "But it might kill you without me." And for a second, I wasn't sure if she was joking. That was the first day I met them. Both women, both older than me, both carrying the kind of presence that made you straighten up without realizing why. I was fixing the coffee machine at their small interior design studio, one of those cozy places tucked between a flower shop and a law office. It smelled like paint, jasmine, and espresso gone cold. The friend, loud, red lipstick, the type who owned every room she walked into, kept hovering over my shoulder, asking if I ever fixed broken hearts too. But she, the other one, the quieter one, didn't laugh. She just stood by the window, arms crossed, watching sunlight trace lines over the floor. I didn't know her name yet, only that she didn't belong to noise. She spoke finally, her voice low, deliberate. "Don't listen to her," she said. "She flirts with the delivery guy too." I smiled, tightening the last screw on the machine. "Good to know. I'll keep my guard up." She tilted her head a little, like she wanted to say something else, but changed her mind. There was something careful about her, not cold, just contained, like she had learned to measure what she gave away. Her friend left soon after, still laughing, still saying things that filled the room long after the door shut. And then it was just us. Her, leaning against the counter with a half-empty cup of coffee, and me, pretending to check my work for the third time. "You're very thorough," she said. "I get nervous when someone watches me work," I said, trying to sound casual. Her mouth curved, not quite a smile. "Then don't look at me." I didn't. But I could feel her there. The warmth of her silence. The faint scent of whatever perfume fades only when you get too close. I packed up my tools slowly. She was staring at the coffee machine like it was suddenly personal. "Try it now," I said. She poured water, pressed the button. The machine hissed, sputtered, and came to life, a low hum that filled the quiet. She exhaled softly, like she'd been holding her breath. "It's been dead for weeks," she said. I almost forgot how it sounded. Something about that stuck with me. The way she said dead, not broken. "You could have replaced it," I said. "I could have," she replied. "But some things you fix. You don't replace." That line, simple, unpolished, lodged itself somewhere deep. Outside, the day was ending. The studio lights cast long, tired shadows, and she stood beneath one of them, half in light, half not. I caught her looking at me, just once, like she wasn't supposed to. Then she looked away. "You'll send the invoice?" she asked. "Sure," I said. "Or I could just drop it off next time I'm in the area." "Next time?" Her voice wasn't teasing, but it wasn't disinterested either. I shrugged, trying to hide the sudden rush in my chest. "Machines always break again." She nodded slowly, lips pressing into something unreadable. "Maybe, but not everything does." I left before she could say anything else. Still, the sound of that coffee machine, the soft, waking hum of it, followed me down the hallway, long after the door closed. And that line she said, about fixing things instead of replacing them, I don't know why, but it felt like it wasn't really about the coffee machine. It felt like she was talking about herself. Or maybe, somehow about me. She called me again 2 weeks later. Said the coffee machine was leaking this time. It wasn't. I knew that the moment I stepped inside. The studio looked exactly the same. Sketches spread across the table, color swatches pinned to the wall, half-open blinds cutting sunlight into thin gold stripes. But she looked different. Or maybe I just saw her differently now. There were faint shadows under her eyes, the kind that come from sleeping beside thoughts that won't quiet down. She wore her hair tied loosely, a few strands falling across her cheek. When she brushed them back, I noticed her hand trembled just a little. I pretended not to. "I could have fixed it," she said, leaning against the counter. "I doubt that," I replied, opening my tool bag. She raised an eyebrow. "You think I can't handle a wrench? I think you'd get distracted halfway and start redecorating the kitchen." That almost smile appeared again, the one that never reached her eyes, but made you want to stay long enough to see if it ever would. She didn't deny it, just folded her arms, watching me work. The silence between us had a different shape this time, less comfortable, more aware. Every sound seemed amplified. The click of metal, the slow rhythm of her breathing, the faint hum of music coming from the radio on the shelf. "You look tired," I said finally. "Do I?" "Yeah, like you've been thinking too much." She exhaled softly, eyes fixed on the floor. That's not new. There it was, a tiny crack in her usual composure. I could have looked away, given her space, but instead I said the one thing I probably shouldn't have. "You don't have to hold everything together all the time." Her hand stilled. For a moment, I thought she might ask how I could possibly know. But she just gave a faint, tired laugh, the kind that sounds more like surrender than humor. "You're too young to talk like that," she murmured. "It doesn't suit you. Maybe I just noticed things." She turned then, finally meeting my eyes. There was something searching in her gaze, like she was trying to decide whether I was safe to talk to or dangerous to feel near. The leak that didn't exist took me nearly an hour to fix. I lingered, adjusting things that didn't need adjusting, waiting for her to say something. She didn't. But when I stood to leave, she stepped closer, close enough that I could smell the faint trace of her perfume, something soft and unfamiliar. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For what?" She hesitated. "For pretending it was broken." I froze. She smiled, a small, unguarded curve of her lips that disappeared as soon as it appeared. "You knew?" I asked. "Of course I did." And then she did something I didn't expect. She reached out, as if to touch my arm, but stopped halfway. Her fingers hovered in the air, trembling slightly, then retreated. "Be careful," she whispered. "You fix too much, and people start needing you." I left again, but her words followed me. That unfinished touch, that warning dressed as kindness. And all I could think was how she said people. But her eyes never left mine when she did. It was raining the third time. The kind of rain that softens everything, sound, shape, even judgment. I hadn't planned to see her. She called because the studio ceiling had started to leak near the window, and the landlord was impossible to reach. When I arrived, she was alone again. The friend, the loud one, was gone for the week, she said. The place felt heavier without her. Just the quiet pulse of rain against glass and the low hum of the old heater trying its best. I found a ladder, patched the leak, and told her I'd need to wait a bit to make sure it held. She nodded, almost relieved. "Stay," she said. "I'll make tea." We sat at the small table near the window, mismatched cups, one candle flickering because the power had gone out. She looked softer in that dim light, hair slightly damp, a few raindrops still clinging to her sleeve. "This place is quieter when she's gone," I said, meaning her friend. She smiled faintly. "Too quiet sometimes. She fills the silence, so I don't have to." "Do you not like silence?" She looked up, eyes reflecting candlelight. "I like it too much. It tells the truth." The words hung between us, gentle, dangerous. I didn't know what to say, so I stared out the window instead. The rain blurred everything outside, like the world had decided to keep our moment to itself. Her phone buzzed then, once, twice, and she didn't move. I caught a glimpse of the name flashing on the screen before she flipped it face down. A man's name. "You can take it," I said. "I don't want to." Something in her tone made me stop breathing for a second. It wasn't anger. It was exhaustion, maybe regret. She ran a hand through her hair and said quietly, "He still calls when he remembers what he lost." I didn't ask who he was. I didn't need to. Her eyes said enough. "Does that bother you?" I asked before I could stop myself. She looked at me, really looked. Would it matter if it did? I swallowed hard. "Maybe." She laughed then, but it wasn't cold this time. Just sad. "You shouldn't say things like that." "Why not?" "Because I'm old enough to know better, and you're still trying to figure out if you mean it." The candle flickered, caught the edge of her face, the sharpness of someone who's learned to leave before she's left. I wanted to tell her that she didn't feel old to me, that she felt alive in a way that scared me. But instead, I said, "The leak's holding." She nodded, standing. "Good." I rose too, brushing against her shoulder as I turned. The contact was accidental, or maybe not. She didn't move away immediately. "Do you ever get tired of pretending everything's fine?" I asked softly. Her breath caught. I heard it, the smallest sound but real. Then, just as quickly, She stepped back, putting distance between us. Lock the door when you leave, she said, her voice steady again. She disappeared into the next room. I stood there, staring at the candle burning low, rain still whispering against the window. And for the first time, I realized something almost happened. But she stopped it, and that somehow felt worse than if she hadn't. I didn't see her for nearly a month after the rain. No calls. No broken appliances. No excuses. Just quiet. Too quiet. I told myself it didn't matter, that I was just the guy who fixed things. But every time my phone buzzed, some part of me expected it to be her. When it finally was, I didn't hesitate. She said she needed help moving furniture. Her voice was steady, polite. But something in it, a small tremor under control, told me this wasn't really about furniture. When I got to the studio, the air felt different. Thinner, maybe. Like the room itself knew we were both pretending. She was standing by the window again, arms folded, eyes fixed on the city outside. The late afternoon light framed her in gold and dust. You didn't have to come, she said. I wanted to. That made her turn, just slightly. You shouldn't say things like that. You've said that before. She gave a small, almost tired laugh. And you still don't listen. I stepped closer, not enough to touch her, just enough to feel her nearness again. Maybe I don't want to. The silence that followed was the kind that says too much. The hum of a passing car outside, the faint buzz of a dying light. Everything else vanished around it. She sighed, brushing her hair back. This is getting complicated. It already was, I said quietly. Her eyes flicked to mine, sharp, searching. You don't even know what you want. I hesitated. Maybe I do. Her expression softened. Not kind, not cruel, just sad. Like she'd heard those words before from someone who didn't mean them. She walked to the table, tracing her fingers along its edge. You're young. You still think every connection is supposed to mean something. And you don't. She stopped moving. I can't afford to. That hit harder than I expected. The truth of it, the weight behind it, it wasn't about me. It was about years she never said out loud. Then why do you keep calling me? I asked. Her hand stilled on the table. She didn't turn around. Because you show up. The room shrank around those 3 words. I didn't know what to say, or maybe I knew exactly what to say and couldn't risk saying it. Finally, she looked back at me. Her eyes weren't guarded this time. Just tired, and honest in a way that left no room for pretending. What are we doing? She whispered. The question hung there, heavy and fragile. I don't know, I said, but it doesn't feel wrong. She smiled, the saddest kind of smile, the one that knows hope and reality don't get along. Everything that feels right, she said softly, is what ruins me. We didn't move closer. We didn't touch. But standing there, in that unbearable quiet, it felt like we'd already crossed every line that mattered. And when she finally looked away, her voice was barely a whisper, one I'll never forget. Don't make me feel young again. I can't survive it twice. The message came at 2:13 a.m. Just one line. Are you awake? I was. I'd been scrolling through nothing for an hour, thinking of everything. When I got to her studio the next morning, she didn't look surprised to see me. Just relieved. The kind of relief that doesn't show in words. Only in the way her shoulders dropped when I walked in. I didn't think you'd come, she said quietly. You asked if I was awake, I replied. You knew I would. She smiled, just barely. You really don't know how to stay away, do you? The place was different. Not messy, just lived in. There were papers scattered across the table, a jacket on the chair, a half-empty wine glass by the window. And on the counter, a framed photo I hadn't noticed before. A man stood beside her in it. Maybe late 40s. A hand on her shoulder, both of them laughing at something behind the camera. I looked at it too long. She noticed. That was my husband, she said simply. Was. Her tone didn't invite sympathy, only acknowledgement. I'm sorry, I said. Don't be. It's been years. She paused. He died. Car accident. The air went still. I nodded slowly, not sure what to do with my hands. I didn't know. She leaned against the counter, arms folded. Most people don't ask. I hesitated. Does he look like me? That made her laugh, soft, surprised, sad. No, not at all. He was calmer. You burn differently. Is that good or bad? Both. She turned away then, fussing with something on the shelf. Her voice shifted, quieter. You remind me of him in one way, though. How? She stopped moving. He used to fix things that weren't really broken, just so he'd have a reason to stay. Something in my chest went still. The words didn't sound like an observation. They sounded like a warning wrapped in memory. I tried to say something light, something to dissolve the weight, but nothing came out. She looked at me over her shoulder. You think this is new, don't you? That it's only happening to you? I don't know what this is, I said honestly. Yes, you do. Her voice cracked, the first time I'd ever heard it falter. Silence again. But this time it wasn't distance, it was too close. The kind of silence where everything unsaid grows louder. She walked over and placed something in my hand, an old voicemail cassette. The label faded. His voice, she said softly. I keep it here. I don't listen anymore, but I also can't throw it away. I stared at it. The weight of it, small and enormous at once. Why are you giving it to me? Her eyes met mine, steady, shimmering. Because you make me forget what loss sounds like. I didn't play the tape. I couldn't. But I carried it home that night like something fragile. And for the first time, I realized this wasn't about a coffee machine, or rain, or loneliness. It was about ghosts, hers, and maybe mine, and how easily one heartbeat can start echoing inside another story. She didn't call me for weeks after the night she gave me the cassette. It sat on my desk untouched, wrapped in its small paper sleeve. I thought about listening, but something in me resisted, like it wasn't my right to hear the sound of her grief. So I left it there, beside my phone, where I could see it every day and pretend I didn't. Then, one evening, I walked past her studio and saw the light still on. No appointment, no pretense. I just went in. She was sitting on the floor, surrounded by boxes and sketches, barefoot, her hair loose for once. There was a stillness to her, not sadness, not peace, just stillness. You shouldn't be here, she said softly, without looking up. I know, but you came anyway. Yeah. I sat down across from her, not touching, just close enough that our knees almost met. There were papers scattered between us, fragments of things she'd drawn, unfinished ideas. She picked one up, ran her fingers along a pencil line. I used to draw to stop feeling lonely. Then one day, I realized I was drawing the same faces over and over. His? I asked. She shook her head. No, just someone who stayed. The rain had started again outside, soft, persistent, familiar. I wanted to say her name, but it felt too intimate to speak aloud. Instead, I said, you don't have to do this alone. Her hand stilled. Then she looked at me. Really looked. And for the first time, there was no guardedness, no distance. Just tired honesty. I don't know how to do it with someone anymore, she said. Then maybe we figure it out. Slowly. She smiled, barely, like it hurt a little to let it show. You make it sound simple. It isn't. But it feels right. The power flickered once, then steadied. She reached across the floor, gathering the pages, and our fingers brushed. She didn't pull away this time. It wasn't a deliberate touch. No cinematic pause, no trembling confession. Just two hands that didn't know where else to go. Her skin was warm, her pulse steady beneath my thumb. We sat like that for a long time. No words, no plan. Just the sound of rain and breathing and something fragile trying to become real. I kept waiting for you to listen to the tape, she said quietly. I couldn't. Why not? Because I didn't want to meet the version of you who loved someone else. I already know the one sitting here. Her breath caught, soft, almost a laugh, almost a sob. Then she leaned forward, resting her forehead against mine. Don't promise me anything, she whispered. Just be here. I am. And that was enough. No declarations. No future spelled out. Just a shared heartbeat. A quiet acceptance that whatever this was, messy, wrong, beautiful, had become real. When I left that night, I didn't take the cassette. It stayed on her table, beside her drawings. Some things we don't need to fix. We just learn to live beside them. It's strange, the way silence changes meaning. Back then, silence felt like something that could break us. All those pauses filled with things neither of us could say. Now, it feels like what held us together. The memory of it still does. It's been almost a year since that last night at her studio. The rain had stopped by morning. She'd fallen asleep on the couch, a blanket half slipped to the floor. I left quietly, not because I wanted to, but because I knew staying would turn something tender into something heavy. And she deserved tenderness. We still see each other sometimes. A passing glance at the cafe near the corner. A polite, "How have you been?" That lasts too long to be casual and too short to be enough. But it's different now. Not a wound, not even longing. More like an echo that reminds you where you've been. I think about that cassette sometimes. She told me later she finally threw it away. Said she didn't listen. She just stopped needing to. That's what love does, I guess. Not the kind that burns or breaks, but the kind that teaches. It doesn't always stay. It just changes the shape of the silence you carry afterward. She once said, "You fix too much, and people start needing you." I understand that now. What she meant wasn't about tools or machines. It was about how some people show up when everything's falling apart. And somehow, by being there, they become the thing you don't want to lose. I didn't fall in love with her age, or her voice, or the way she looked at me like I might still become someone worth remembering. I fell in love with how she saw things, how she made ordinary moments feel deliberate, how she moved like every decision cost her something. She taught me that love isn't about what you get from someone. It's about what you learn while standing close enough to understand why they pull away. And I think that's what we were. Two people caught between what was safe and what was honest, trying to fix something that was never broken, just unfinished. The last time I saw her, she smiled, really smiled. Not the sad, careful kind, but one that reached all the way to her eyes. "You're doing better," she said. "I learned from the best," I told her. We didn't hug. We didn't promise to stay in touch. We just stood there in the kind of silence that says thank you without words. And maybe that's enough. Maybe the point wasn't to end up together, just to end up changed. If this story made you feel something, let me know in the comments. Would you want more stories like this?